Well, good morning to you, and it's Friday, and welcome to Penn Vicarage. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us for our Bible reflection for today. Hope you're cheerful and well, and I hope you're looking forward to having a lovely weekend with God and so on as well. So anyway, we are working our way through the book of Proverbs, and today we're in chapter 17. So without further ado, here goes Proverbs and chapter 17. Better a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A slave who deals wisely will rule over a child who acts shamefully and will share the inheritance as one of the family. The crucible is for silver and the furnace is for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives heed to a mischievous tongue. Those who mock the poor insult their maker. Those who are glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and the glory of children is their parents. Fine speech is not becoming to a fool, still less is false speech to a ruler. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of those who give it. Wherever they turn, they prosper. One who forgives an affront fosters friendship, but one who dwells on disputes will alienate a friend. A rebuke strikes deeper into a discerning person than 100 blows into a fool. Evil people seek only rebellion, but a cruel messenger will be sent against them. Better to meet a she-bear robbed of its cubs than to confront a fool immersed in folly. Evil will not depart from the house of one who returns evil for good. The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so stop before the quarrel breaks out. One who justifies the wicked and one who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. Why should fools have a price in hand to buy wisdom when they have no mind to learn? A friend loves at all times, and kinsfolk are born to share adversity. It is senseless to give a pledge to become surety for a neighbour. One who loves transgression loves strife. One who builds a high threshold invites broken bones. The crooked of mind do not prosper, and the perverse of tongue will fall into calamity. The one who begets a fool gets trouble. The parent of a fool has no joy. A cheerful heart is a good medicine, but a downcast spirit dries up the bones. The wicked will accept a concealed bribe to pervert the ways of justice. The discerning person looks to wisdom, but the eyes of a fool to the ends of the earth. Foolish children are a grief to their father, and bitterness to her who bore them. To impose a fine on the innocent is not right, or to flog the noble for their integrity. One who spares words is knowledgeable. One who is cool in spirit has understanding. Even fools who are silent are considered wise. When they close their lips, they are deemed intelligent. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, whereas there's every verse is like a sermon on its own, but whereas chapter 16 focused particularly on the importance of fearing God, about God's presence in life and so on, chapter 17 is principally with a lot in here about human relations, particularly within families. There's about grandchildren, children, and so on. There's quite a lot in here about families and about familial relations and the importance of keeping peace at home and keeping peace with friends and so on. So in verse 1, it kind of sets the scene quite well. Better a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. Essentially, you can have all the fancy food if you like, as much as you like, and have all the fancy stuff. But actually, if you've got strife all around you, you're better off with dry bread, basically. We've all been to meals and things when there's been this huge tension and upset and everything else. And it's actually better to eat quietly on your own than to eat in that situation. So I think that verse 1 kind of sets the scene quite well. Verse 2, it talks about, it's interesting, it talks about wisdom being even more important than you might say privilege and familial ties. So a slave who deals wisely will rule over a child who acts shamefully and will share the inheritance as one of the family. So a slave who acts wisely actually does better than, if you like, one of the children, or one of the blood children, if you like. And this actually happened to Solomon himself. Solomon had a son called Rehoboam, who was basically a spoiled brat, and he grew up, he became very arrogant and became a terrible king. And his slave Jeroboam eventually became sort of almost became ruler over him, and the kingdom was split. So in a sense, Solomon may have not have noticed at the time, I don't know, but that's exactly what's happened. A slave, Jeroboam, actually became more significant than his son Jeroboam. You can read about it in 1 Kings 11, verses 28 onwards. So it illustrates that. Verse 3 talks about the crucible. The crucible is a place where silver and gold are, and furnace for gold are places where they are purified. And through the flames, through the fire, the rubbish comes off, and the silver and the gold become purer. And it says the Lord tests the heart. And in lots of ways, actually talking about families and so on, in a sense, we can all live out our family life at church. We can all look terribly good at church. We can put on our best bib and tucker. We can look terribly holy and say all sorts of blessing things and look as if nothing's ever wrong with us and whatever else. But in a sense, the trouble with families is they know what you really like, don't they? And I think in some ways, family life for a Christian is something of a crucible. You know, working. I think it's almost harder to work it out at home than it is elsewhere. But nonetheless, you know, it becomes purer through it, and our family are God's gift to us. But in a sense, a bit like a crucible can heat up silver and gold. Likewise, you know, in a sense, the gift that we are to each other is that we become purer in God through that heat. Verse 4 then tells about who we listen to. There's quite a lot in Proverbs, and there is in this chapter as well, about the importance of using our tongues correctly, of being careful what we say. But here it's about being careful what we listen to as well. And I think this is, especially these days of the internet, I think this is truer than ever. There are all sorts of images and messages coming us from all sorts of places, which are considered to be true. Actually, we can have, to some extent, we can be careful who we listen to, and we can make sure that our ears are open to what God has to say to us. Because an evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives heed to mischievous tongue. I think sometimes we like to listen to the people that we like to listen to. You know, we all like to listen to people that tell us what we want to hear, don't we? And I think what he's saying here is an evildoer tends to listen to evil people, and so that's what they want to hear. But we need to make sure that we are using not just our tongues, but also our ears to listen to what God has to say to us. Verse 5 again is about human relations, and it's about attitudes to people outside the home. It says here, those who mock the poor mock their maker. Those who are glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Again, I just got the voice of Jesus in my ears about what you did to the least of my brethren, you did also to me. To make sure that we care about not just people, not just me and mine, but we care about other people as well. That we don't mock the people. I mean, people are poor, and sometimes for very unbeknown reasons, and so on. I used to live opposite a man who'd served in the armed forces, and he'd been utterly traumatized by what he'd seen. His wife had died, and his family had fallen apart. And it's very easy to look down on people like that because he'd hit the bottle and so on. But actually, he was a good man. It's just situations. So we have to be careful about those who mock the poor, mock their maker. But remember that as well. Verse 9, I think it's also very important as well, in terms of friendships. If we want to make friendships, it says here, one who forgives an affront fosters friendship, but one who dwells on disputes will alienate a friend. I think we live in a world these days where people are quite quick to take offence and almost hang on to the right to take offence as well. But bluntly, it doesn't lead to good friendships. I mean, actually, we need people who, you know, we need to learn to be able to forgive it, to look beyond these things. I mean, some people, as I say, love to take offence. You know, it's kind of what they thrive on. You know, it's my right to take offence, and I find what you say offensive and all this type of thing. Actually, it doesn't make for friendships, because one who forgives an affront fosters friendship, one who dwells on disputes, when they alienate friends. If we want to make friends, we need to learn to be able to not take offense and to overlook things sometimes as well. Verse 16, two more things to go. Verse 16 talks about, to beg your pardon, verse 15 talks about proper justice. That he talks about the importance of not either acquitting the guilty or condemning the innocent. So we're very careful these days not to condemn the innocent, and quite right too. But we also have to be careful in our society too that we don't acquit the guilty too. There are two sides of the same coin, and they're both not good. They're both an abomination to the Lord. So we need to make sure that our justice, and we act justly, to make sure that the guilty are not acquitted, but also the innocent aren't condemned, and so on. And then finally, in the last two verses, in verse 27 and 20, again, this theme through Proverbs about the importance of being careful what we say, and sometimes having the patience when people say things to us to count to 10 first, to make sure that we're not just jumping out with stupid, rash comments. So lots in this chapter, lots of amazing stuff. A lot I hear about interhuman relationships, about the importance of keeping good relationships at home, about wisdom's more important than family ties. That for us, our families are the crucible that make us purer, make us better people. We need to also remember who we listen to. Make sure we listen. Make sure our ears are listening to God. Make sure we're not being too keen to take offence. Make sure we're not looking down on the poor. Make sure that our justice system is good, and making sure that we're careful what we say, that we're not acting rashly. Lots in here. I could go on and on all morning, but this will be making a very, very long talk. Have a lovely weekend, my friends. God bless you. Thank you for watching. So have a lovely weekend. Do please share this message with your friends. Do take the messages to heart. Read Proverbs chapter 17 again. Enjoy it at your leisure. God bless you. Thank you.